Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crafty Chat, and it's episode number 17. And we're very excited about today because we're going on a field trip, many field trips virtually. The idea is to go to a museum. That kind of came out of our daily challenge that we were working through on Creative Bug, and that program is on its way, our spinoff on doing that. And one of the things about living a creative life that she recommended was to go to a museum and just experience that. So most museums and travel right now not really happening due to our COVID-19 pandemic. So fortunately, there's a lot of museums we discovered you can visit virtually online. So we're here to share some of the ones that we really got into. So I don't know, who wants to start?
I can dive in because I've got mine straight up.
Yeah. Oh, this one I was really interested in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This. So I think we were talking about doing 2 museums a piece. I had a long list of stuff that I found. But I started out by just Googling virtual museum exhibits and looking for. There's a lot of lists that have been published through a lot of like New York Times, Biblio, some of like the bigger news agencies to keep folks entertained during the pandemic. So this was one of I picked the 2 more unusual ones that I could find. This one is the Museum of Underwater Sculpture. It's in Cancun, Mexico. It's just off the coast of Cancun. And it looks like this. From what I could figure, the original link to the website that was provided in the article didn't work, and that website looked like it had better pictures. Yeah. This was a little, I think it's actually frozen, the picture scroll. I really, really like this. I love underwater museum. I love, I don't even really know how to explain it. I think I already said that I'm really attracted to unusual museums. I really like shipwrecks and underwater stuff and scuba diving and like the pictures and videography that comes out of doing things underwater. The first time that I heard of this was a mausoleum and cemetery, an underwater one, and I can't remember where it is right off the top of my head, but I couldn't find it online, and this was the next best thing that I could find, where it's just this gigantic, I think there's like 7 locations that have. You can do tours by glass bottom boat or by scuba diving or by snorkeling, and they're in all different states of decay, because I think the idea behind a lot of these was to also give coral and animals places to live to try to rebuild reef systems. They didn't really have a very good virtual tour, but the pictures in it were so pretty, and the galleries were really, I think I'm actually already on that one. Yeah, I am. Let me go to the other one. The galleries on these were so gorgeous that I loved. This one was one of my favorites, that Reclamation. That one I really liked.
Wow.
It kind of looks a little bit like Winged Victory to me, which is a statue that's in the Louvre. But just all kinds of really, really gorgeous. Some of it modern, some of it classical sculpture. This one was really cool, the anchors. Yeah, so that one I really loved. And the next one that I picked was...
Oh, wait, one thing I was going to say I liked about that, though, too, just especially the whole, as I was exploring virtually, it's like, I'm going to places that I'm very unlikely, unlikely to go. I don't know why that was so difficult to like form as a sentence. But yeah, I mean, I don't snorkel, I don't scuba dive. I mean, yeah, I could do a glass bottom boat, but I don't know that I'm even going to go to Cancun. So to see this, it was just like, and to be able to access it and like learn and read about it, it was really cool.
Yeah, well, my family made a trip to Cancun when I was like 9 or 10 for just a family vacation, and I didn't know that this was there.
Mm.
I think it actually may not have been there when I was 9 or 10, as it was like almost 30 years ago. But that was so cool, because like a lot of the stuff in Cancun that I remember is all Mayan ruins and archaeology sites, where this was a lot more modern. And that was really kind of enchanting to me, because I've always thought about, like, I want to learn how to scuba dive, and I would love to do that at some point. I don't really know if that's in the cards, or like the amount of, like, the path that I would have to go down to do that is a long-term plan of, like, being able to scuba dive. So this was the next best thing. I kind of had the same feeling of, like, it's not very feasible that I'll actually see this. This next one that I picked is a little on the macabre side. This is through the Barcelona cemeteries ran an exhibit that is it's an exhibit of funeral carriages.
Yeah. And
this website specifically talks a lot about the history of funeral carriages in Barcelona and why it became popular.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
Yeah, they're really, really gorgeous. I visited a lot of museums where death is like a central portion, and it is a really strong genre of art that talks about death. But that's my interest in anthropology and the study of, like, funerary practices and humans' ideas around death, and the anthropology of our ideas about what happens after we die, and the kind of things that people throughout history have done to honor people that have died, but it's all for the living. So funerary practices fascinate me because they're less for the dead and they're more for the living. Plus the art that comes out of it is so gorgeous, like the carvings in cemeteries. And these ones were really, really pretty because they're if anybody's familiar with art history, they look more Baroque or Rococo to me, but these were made in the late 1800s. So the time period for that art style is like 200 or 300 years after that art style was really popular. Granted, a lot of these are Victorian or Edwardian age, so there was an aspect of Baroque resurgence in the Victorian period, but these just kind of blow everything out of the water, and they were just so beautiful. And I loved that they had this. The website was really kind of confusing to go through, and there are a lot of pictures on here that I couldn't get really, really great pictures. So it'll go through the history and the website. I'm trying to find, there was a picture, they have horse maquettes with the tracings that they would put on the horses because these are all horse-drawn carriages. With the tracings that they would put on the horses when they pulled the carriages.
And then it was interesting because then after a while, we had the automobile, so then they were using like the Studebaker and all this, like these cool cars. But it's like, I don't know, I would dig being pulled on one of those. I was going through and picking them. I'm like, which one would I want to be?
Yeah, you lose some of that ornateness and pomp and circumstance that goes along with this horse-drawn carriage.
I think it also has a lot to do with the difference in ideology between European culture and American culture. There's a strong history in American culture for stoicism and death.
Yeah.
And that kind of that very modern, streamlined, minimalist kind of, it's not going to be fancy and ornate. It's a somber thing. It's not generally it's not so much of a celebration, and it's not really elaborate. It's more stoic and somber in American culture than it is from what I've seen of European culture. And that changes wherever you are around the world. But the pictures of, like, this is the inauguration of the collection. They actually ran the carriages through Barcelona and drove them into the museum that they were going to be in, into the gallery that they were going to be in. And looking at all this, it was just so cool. And I like historical reenactment a lot. So this was really interesting from that perspective. But those were the two primary ones that I found. I also found there's a Bran Castle in can't remember where it is. It's said to be Dracula's castle. There's no evidence that it actually was Dracula's castle, but there's a strong vampire aspect of that. And then the Anthropology National Museum in Mexico City and the Natural History Museum in London were three other big ones that I looked at. I love natural history museums and I love animals, so that was really, really cool to be able to go through their collection. Those are museums that I haven't been to before too. So I tried to stay with museums that I haven't visited. I've done a lot of travel internationally, so I've seen a lot of museums outside of the U.S. I wanted different things to talk about. So
cool. Yeah. Those are definitely some gems.
Yeah, that's. I'm excited for the ones that you picked, Heidi.
Oh, well, I guess I can go. Do I just have to click on share screen then? Right? What am I? So I'm going to start off over here though, because one thing I discovered through this from looking at a lot of the articles, they talk about museums you could go to, and then it would take you to this Google Arts and Culture website, which is really interesting. They've teamed up with, I think it was like 500 or so museums and galleries, and then there's even national parks and stuff like that you can visit. A lot of it's like you can it's like Google Streets. You can go on a walk through the places. So I just was kind of showing this off. You can go by, country, choose music and art. I just kind of kept scrolling down. They have a lot of fun things you can do if you on your phone that you can't really do on the laptop, but if you have an iPad or an iPhone or smartphone of some kind, there's different apps that you can play with to like see the artwork up close and just different information. So what was I getting to though? It was really cool. There was like a surfing museum. I was like, no way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Here it is.
The Australian, so I clicked on that, and you just kind of keep scrolling down. It's giving you information, and you can get into some of the rooms. And there you are. And then you just kind of click on the arrows and move around. I found like this was a little bit easier to do on my iPad, to be able to navigate around a room. So, but there's like all this cool, if you're into surfing, which, I am, I like to read about it anyways. I don't actually do it myself. So, but yeah, it's just like, I would never have thought of there being like a surf museum. There was not the one. The one I was really excited about showing is the Dali Museum. This was not through the Google Arts site. This was through some other article link. And so here is a mock-up. They call it like the doll house because you can kind of see all the different rooms, and you could just click on it and go, into a space if you want to by hitting one of these, or just start your virtual tour. So I'm going to do it that way so you can see what it's like to begin. It's like, here you are at the front door.
While it's loading, I've taken some museum studies courses, and I love museums. When I saw this, I just wanted to like slam and be, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. Just like the 3D modeling of a museum, I'm like, you all need to do this. You all need to get on this page and have your 3D model of your museum because this is amazing.
Yes. So you just kind of, you can look at all this stuff, and it's really, the detail on it, you can really zoom in on this, which is, they just did a fantastic job, definitely, of photographing it. So, fun fact, then you get like information about the courtyard, like when they were building it. And all these different things, are very interactive. There was one that, so the car, the car is a really fun piece. How do I get there? Got to click on the little circles. Try and get over here. Okay. I want to back up.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm really close. There's a way to get in the car. Darn it.
You can get in the car? You
can, but it's like a, I think you have to start off over on this. Here we go. I have to back away from the car. Okay, so here's the car. And so it says, would you like to get in? But you have to, it's tricky. You have to click on the spot next to the door and see if it opens. So I think there's like that little, there we go. Inside.
Good.
Crazy, huh?
Whoa.
So what's happening with this, though, there is a video that goes with it that, like, when it rains inside the car. There's
Oh my
like
God.
this whole story. There's like this whole video that, I mean, I kind of started it midway, but it's so creepy.
Yeah, that's
very creepy.
Yeah. So anyway, really cool museum because it's so interactive. Okay, so this is one of my favorite rooms, and it's the Mae West. It's like something that Mae West portrait could someday be a surrealist apartment or something like that. I'm misquoting it, but anyway, he had this drawing based off of Mae West's face. So this is Mae West. All these different things. Her lips, the saliva sofa.
oh,
I know, right? And then there's this quote, and because we had to do a self-portrait, which I haven't done yet for our challenge, but it says, if you're at home, you can put on bright red lipstick and plant a kiss onto a sheet of white paper and use this imprint to make a surrealist portrait. So I've yet
there you go.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
And then you can, really just zoom in so close and, see like it's her eye, and I don't know. It's just.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of cool too, because if you were actually at this museum, you wouldn't be the only person exploring these things. So, and this is something I found, like, just in general, exploring museums from the comfort of your own home is that you sort of, as I was saying before we started, you choose your own adventure.
And it's crazy.
But you have no crowds here, and you're getting way closer than maybe you even could in the actual museum, right?
Yeah, no, that's
so that's
my
really
my biggest gripe about. I love the Smithsonian system of museums. Going to a museum when it's virtually empty is an experience I hope everybody has in their lifetime. It's really hard to do because it does kind of take away something from certain museums if you're having to fight through a crowd or if you're in just like a gigantic throng of people. I have a tendency to stop and read every single plaque. So I feel a lot of pressure sometimes by the other museum goers of like, no, you need to move it along. You were here for the big stuff. Get out of my way. So doing this is just, you have that personal experience of like, there's no one else in the building. It's just you and the art. And that's such a rarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and you can just, and you can go places you couldn't go. Like you're like behind the guardrails and stuff like that too, which is,
that's really
fun,
neat.
the amount of detail. Like I highly doubt I'm going to make it physically to the Dali Museum, although I really would love to after being here. So I know we were going to do, I don't know what happened. I got rid of everybody's video on the side by mistake. So sorry. Anyway, I just want to show one more. I know I said 2, and now I'm going for 3, which I broke the rules. But I had to show this Museum of Broken Relationships. And it is a physical museum, I guess, but a lot of it's just stuff that's online. And it's stuff that people have submitted, like little mementos and things like that from a relationship that they had. And, just some of the stories are really hilarious. I mean, in a way, it's kind of sad because it is all like relationships that didn't work out. This was really gross. I thought, who saved like the crust of a piece of bread? Like that's what's up with that story. And they're talking about the crust of their scab.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's just not bread, that's a scab.
Well, I actually realized something as I was going through this collection, looking at it. These submissions are from all over the world. Yeah. So they're mostly from Europe. But there's ones from South America, Asia, Australia. It's amazing. It's more global than I think what I'm used to as far as like specific collections. So.
And some of them just have like a couple sentences. Like this one, The Watch, they had a long story to go with it. I mean, so it's a really fun way to, especially just to spend like a few minutes while you're having lunch, kind of look at something and these little stories, they were just, I'm like, I don't know, it was a very clever idea. So the X-Ax was hilarious and vindictive in a way that I did not see that coming. It was so funny.
Do they offer like a daily email you can get, or like some sort of, so it'd kind of be cool if you could get one a day sent to you,
Yeah. So many one-a-day things I have.
I know. Stupid frisbee.
So, yeah, definitely say, I'm going to, we'll have all the links like we do. I recommend checking that one out. Yeah. I think that's all that I had at the moment.
So it's my turn.
So now Lucy, yes.
Yay. So I approached this a little bit differently than you guys, which is kind of made me laugh about myself. Like Heidi, when you sent that email, I was like, God, I didn't think about the fact that I could go like anywhere in the world, which just shows like how insular I've become in my little home these past months. So I basically visited places that I have been before that were in some way meaningful to me in different parts of my life. And I wanted to see what they offered virtually. So one that I went to here, let me get, this is the Hewitt Museum, which is a museum in New York that I used to go to a lot when I lived in New York right after college, because they had a lot of different times where you could go there without paying to go. And it was really close to where I lived. And it was a museum that really wasn't very crowded. And it's now part of the Smithsonian museums, but it's a museum of objects, essentially. It was started by these two sisters who basically kept everything in their, like they had all these different objects in their house that they wanted to put in a museum. So it's sort of a museum of design. Like they will, I'm trying to see what I can find that they show. Let's see, toys. No. So in the museum, they might have had like something from their house, like a clock or a pen. That was originally how it started, and then it's sort of branched out to be more a museum about just design. So I want to go back to one really cool thing that they do is this object of the day, or object of the week.
Yeah,
and you can get this emailed to you. So and so like today it happened to come on Monday, so it was like wallpaper.
I love the plaid. That's so
yeah, I know. And so it's just really fun to think about how a museum can be created. And this is what I liked about going to also it's a beautiful building when you go there. But how a museum can be created out of like everyday objects, that objects, every object that you have is designed with intent. And so to look at those from a different lens. And that's sort of what I liked about this museum. There are, besides getting like the object of the week, where you can sort of take this short little, they're usually about 3 minutes to read. And some of them are just really strange. But you can also, there's a few like virtual activities or series that you can register for. They do this design snack series. So you can, it's like a Zoom thing, and it'll be like an intro to brainstorming, or different things that are sort of teaching you about design. So that's just one museum that I visited virtually because I have spent a lot of time there in person. And then
I love exhibits that go through like history of furniture design. The Van Andel Museum in Grand Rapids does this a lot, because Grand Rapids is at one point in time was a hub for furniture design. So there's a lot of aspects of that museum that talk a lot about furniture design. And that idea, I don't know, you get a little bit of a better perspective for like the intent and exactly like the everyday objects, like your furniture and stuff, of exactly how much design goes into that when you.
Yeah. And I think, I just think that sometimes to remember, and we, like all the museums we've looked at have been different today, but like to get away from the museum as just like art on the walls, and, to explore a space like a house where everything is where it would be. But then the exhibits do change there. So, and there is more that you can do. They do have some of their exhibits online. Like you can do a virtual tour right now of this contemporary Muslim fashions, which is really neat to see.
Oh, that would be cool.
Fashion. Yeah, so that's on the Cooper Hewitt website, but I don't want to like search around. And then the other museum that I visited was, it's the Harvard the Harvard art museums have they have a couple of different art museums, and they have created Harvard art museums from home. So like they put together something that you can just visit from home, and it has a lot of different facets. So it has art talks there. There are tours that you can take at home. Like right now they have this, Nancy, I thought of you with this peacock.
Yeah.
And it's actually Japanese art.
Yeah.
The Edo. Yeah. And what's cool when you're going through here, there are some places, was this the
Oh
one?
my gosh, those are gorgeous.
Like some of them you could click on. Yeah. And they're going to take you into a detail, and they give you some of the writing, and you don't have to fight with people to read it. So I thought this exhibit was really cool. They had some woodblock prints, and you can get they have a whole thing of fans.
Oh, wow.
But then the woodblock prints, sorry to go through it so fast.
That's okay. That's like an aspect of the Google Arts thing, though, that like sometimes, they have those where you can click on it. And
see, this puts you through the art.
Yeah. And it's you can just look at, art.
Oh, yesterday I could click on that and it brought me closer, but today it's not. Anyway, so that
clicking on the arrow to go to the next one. Like if you click on if you do, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, this is an the Google Arts and Culture link here. So that was one sort of more traditional virtual aspect of what Harvard's done.
Mm-hmm.
But then they had a couple other things that they have put together at these museums from home that I love. So this is called the Materials Lab, and they have 3 different activities: mosaic, monotype, and then the cylinder seal. So I'll just show you like the monotype. They're going to show you, they will talk about what it is, but then they're going to show you how you can do yours from home. And first, though, they will show you an artist that would have done monotype. So here they go into Degas, and they look at some of his monotypes, and then they tell you how you can do it at home. So here they're doing it on a sheet of glass, but they also show you how you could do a monotype by just doing, you can do a paper to paper monotype. And then there was so they have like a traditional printing press monotype. Then they show you how you could do, this is actually a link to the Chicago Art Institute. So there's some of the videos on Harvard's website linked to the Art Institute in Chicago. And so they're just showing you how you can sort of go through Gauguin's process of making monotypes. And this was really fun. And I didn't get a chance. I was going to try it this morning. I didn't get a chance to do it. Just paper to paper, because I don't think I have a plate to do anything on right now. So
you take the glass out of any picture frame.
Oh, that's good point. There you go. I have a plate. So it was, and the mosaic, it was just like do it with paper or whatever you have, but they will give you a good bit of the history of each thing that they're teaching you how to do. So I thought that was really fun, and I spent a lot of time there. And then one other thing that I loved about these was they have these 4 different articles, staff picks, what art enthusiasts can read, watch, and listen to while at home. So this is where I really started going down these rabbit holes, because they're like, okay, here's a great book you can read, and I'll tell you why. This is a website that you should go to. And I'm telling you this because you should go to this. SmartHistory is it's just this collection of art, history, and conversation, they say. And so it goes through all of these periods of art here. So actually starting with prehistoric, going through global cultures, current global cultures. And if you find the site overwhelming, you don't know where to start, they will, like this is cool actually. They have they teach you how to use their website essentially, but this is just modern cultures today. So there's videos, there's stuff you can read. so it's not a museum per se, but in a way it's like bits and pieces from a lot of different art exhibits. And when I found this, I just was like so excited to be able to know that all of this information from all over the world was available.
I'm really glad that Ai Weiwei is on there, because I saw some of his photography and artwork in Grand Rapids at the Frederick Meyer Garden. And his stuff is so cool. That's really, really
planted
awesome.
100 million seeds at the Tate Modern, sunflower seeds.
Yep.
That's amazing. Yeah, so I just got really, really excited about that. And I learned about this podcast on here called Side Door, which is put together through all of the Smithsonian museums, and each episode is about one object and across the Smithsonian museum. So this morning I listened to one about a photograph of Harriet Tubman that was discovered not too long ago when she was younger, because all of the portraits of her are when she's like in her 80s. So this was when she was in her 40s, and I don't know, it was just really cool. So I guess I discovered that, like, visiting something virtually, even going back to a museum that you were familiar with, right now, going online, that you can just sort of keep clicking and clicking and clicking in any of these things that we've shown, and the avenues for discovery are pretty vast. So I was really excited about, I don't know, being able to do this more, that you can just sort of visit at your own pace. So
I love that this is a corner of the internet, because this is like the kind of stuff that the internet is made for, is learning and art and sharing information and having those cross-cultural conversations and, interacting with people that, are on the other side of the planet. That was the whole idea behind the internet, or at least the way it was pitched to me when I was younger. So cool that this is, there are still museums and there are still collections that are actively documenting art that's happening right now. Yeah. And has happened. So but,
I was thinking too how valuable this could be. I mean, and like, just because I discovered more yesterday than I knew was there doesn't mean other people don't know it's there. But for, like, a lot of kids who are going to be in a virtual classroom, that this is something that you can supplement that with, or just even, because there's got to be, like, I think just looking at the different museums that the three of us showed, like, there is something out there on everything. And so
there's literally a museum for everything.
Yeah, and it is like exactly what you're saying, Nancy, that when the internet was created, it was introduced like as this web of information that can introduce you to cultures and worlds all over. And I think has now become much more insular in a way. So maybe that's why I was so excited by it. Maybe it was just getting out, even though I didn't leave the country.
I was a little blown away. I think I found way more than what I was expecting. And it sent me down way more rabbit holes than what I anticipated. I'm easily distractible and love doing research and kind of clicking through things really quickly. So that's kind of dangerous for me, because I'll get going, and then it's 3 hours later and I don't know where all that time has gone. So no, I do really, really enjoy that. And it's something too of, I'm not a huge fan of modern art. There's certain types of modern art that I like more than others, but doing this research had me more appreciative of modern art. Yeah. In a lot of regards. So I don't know. I have trouble with stuff like Jackson Pollock and Rothke and things that are, very cubist linear, like blocks of color, and you're calling it art, where a lot of the art that I really love is more watercolors, landscapes, traditional design like that, and performance art and photography are the kind of things that I like. But I was finding a lot of sculptures and things that I did really like that do fall more in the category of modern art. So it was expanding my horizons as far as what I enjoy. So
Yeah, I think it's a good way to do that because it's there's no commitment. It's not like you've gone to a museum and paid this admission, and then you're like, oh, now I'm here.
Yeah.
Where's the cafe? Because
I have had that happen before. So my dad and I, when we were in Tokyo when I was in high school, we found a science museum on the map, and all it said was Science Museum of Tokyo, and we're like, oh cool, that'll be fun, we both love science. We get there, it was a kids science museum. We didn't realize it. So it was kind of like Hands-On Ann Arbor, or the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum, where we're kind of just like wandering through this museum of like, we are not the target audience for this, but it was fun and it was really cool. Hard to interact with a lot of the stuff because it was all in Japanese and neither of us speak Japanese. But it was still a really cool experience. So I know that like it does actually help to kind of know what you're getting into with museums, because the admissions can be expensive, and I'm someone that I don't have a problem paying like that. I consider paying admission to a museum as like it's cheaper than buying a ticket to a Broadway show. Or, so it's a cultural activity that I can do that doesn't cost quite as much as going to see an opera or a play, or going to a concert. And it's something that's more aligned with my interests. So like that physical experience inside of a museum will always be my first choice. But because I can't go anywhere, and because I'm limited in the places that I can go, being able to see these things digitally is just as great in a different aspect. It's made me want to go see these places in person all the more. So we were talking about, sorry, go ahead.
You can have a better plan when you get there too, because we were
oh God,
there's only so much you can digest. So, you go in there and it's like you want to read all the cards because you appreciate and value the work that people have done. They've done that research to help educate you about what you're looking at. But then there's some days where it's like after a while, it's like I just want to look at it.
And if you're
I want to read about it later, so I might take a picture of it and then I'll
and
I do that all the time. No, I take pictures of plaques. Well, it's having taken museum studies classes and knowing how much work goes into those little paragraphs that you see, or like the little cards. I try to read them because those are very, very, there's a lot of work put into that. And I know how frustrated museum curators and exhibit creators get when it's like nobody's reading the cards. So a lot of times if I don't have time, I'll just take a picture of it with my phone, and then I'll go back later. I was lucky enough to get to go to the Toledo Museum of Art last weekend to see Yayoi Kusama's Fireflies on Water at the Toledo Museum. It's something that I've wanted to do for months. And we did get to go around and look at other stuff there, but that I took so many pictures while I was there. I do every time I go. And I was flipping through them and reading the stuff, and it was very, very fun to kind of experience that a second time through my own pictures.
Well, and I think this is a nice activity now that because I mean, it's hard to break away from, but it's like I want to remember when it gets to be the end of the night and I am kind of too tired for reading or to focus on that, but like instead of like diving into Netflix where I'm scrolling through and not finding I could go to a museum and I could spend some time, definitely plenty of time there, even just like if you can't read the cards, like I was saying at the Guggenheim, like you're walking around, it's just to like kind of be in that space and be moving through it. It felt good. It's really
and I think it feels like a very constructive use of the internet and the resources that are available. And it's like right now there is that danger too. Like you're saying, Heidi, you're flipping through Netflix and you're not hitting on anything. And like, what a waste of time. We all do it, or even on the internet in general, like just, I think you can spend a lot of time looking at a computer screen and not getting that much of value. And so I think that's why this seems so exciting, because it's just like your brain and your eyes are full of stuff when and it just, I don't know, it feels really good. So
just like the way Google had it set up too, like you can go into a country and be like, what kind of museum, like without even knowing what you're looking for, just see what springs up, like that broken relationships thing. Well, that came out of a different article, but still it was just like, I'm like, what is this? That's just curating different objects. Yeah.
Yeah. There was one that popped up under the Unusual Museums article that I found, was a ramen museum in Tokyo. I was like, okay, that I want to go to, where you can they'll make you your own instant ramen that you can take home with you and have it when you get back in the States. And it's just hysterical to me that was a curated museum. Somebody put money into that, and that makes me so happy that that's a cultural thing. Because it's not an art thing, that's like a food thing, and that's, food is so mutable and so easy to forget in human history, that to have that information preserved, that makes me happy.
And food is such a huge indicator of culture, and there's such a story through food of history of culture. But you can't really. There aren't museums that have a lot of food.
Yeah. So you talk about these. There's one story that I love. I think NPR did an article. Either This American Life or one of their radio shows did a story about it. Condiment containers in the United States at a certain period of time, like in the 17 and 1800s, had a space for salt and pepper, and then some other type of condiment, and it was a jar with a spoon, and there is no record at all of exactly what that condiment is, because at the time it was considered so ubiquitous that nobody bothered to write it down. Nobody bothered to say, these are the condiments that we have on every dinner table. And these condiment containers are the same for 100, 200 years of, dishware record, which is actually a thing.
Definitely.
And I could talk about that a lot, because that was a lot of my archaeology stuff, was talking about dishware, and the history of canning and preserving is boring and yet fascinating. But nobody bothered to write it down, because it was just so flabbergasting to me that nobody journaled about it, nobody wrote about it, no news articles. There's nothing in written history for that, and there's no oral history for it either. So it's kind of this big mystery. There's a lot of folks that have posited that it's some kind of mustard, but then again, we don't know. So kind of one of those magical things in history that's lost to time. I love those kinds of stories.
No, now I'm like, there's got to be some sentence somewhere, even if it's in some fiction from the time when they're they put the salt and pepper and the whatever on their bread.
It also kind of that story gave me something to think about as a journaler and as a planner of what are the things that I take for granted every day that I have, what are the condiments in my refrigerator that I have all the time? What are the things that I cook with every week? What are these things that I take for granted? And that's kind of, it's a fun thought exercise to think about, what do you skip over? What does your brain just always consider is going to be there? And what if it wasn't? So
it's when I was saying, we were having a conversation maybe last week about what if you had to make a museum from what was around you? What would you look at differently? And you might open your fridge and then start to be like, oh wait, this would be interesting. So I don't know, it's still something I want to explore, the idea of asking people to create a museum from their room or their kitchen or their, I don't know.
That's kind of what I enjoyed about the Frida Kahlo. I wanted to show that because they just took the house, and the house is now preserved. It's a museum, and you can walk into her gallery or her studio space, and it's just
wow,
and all that. And then you just go down the hallway, and there's a bed, and it's just it's her house, and so it's
that's so cool.
Yeah,
I do like that brings up an interesting thing. I see a lot of stuff online of art and design, and creative magazines and websites and stuff will interview certain artists in their own studio space, so you can actually see their creative space as it's pitched of this is how these people are creative. You can take some of the things that they do, emulate it, and use that in your own creative process. So it's an inspiration by proxy almost of, getting inspired by the spaces that other people are creating in. So
that's cool. The equivalent now is going to be the bookshelf, And celebrities when they're interviewed in their homes. Like, here's what Tom Hanks has on his bookshelf.
Yeah.
Here's what Gwyneth Paltrow has on hers. It's like, that's as much, we feel like we're getting a glimpse into something, but it's not. So seeing like Frida Kahlo's whole house or seeing someone's studio just is takes that a little bit farther. A lot farther, actually.
It's the in-person version of MTV Cribs.
Yeah. Totally.
My hot take on pop culture.
That was awesome. I really liked that. Yeah.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Field trip.
I know. I really enjoyed this exercise of doing this, and then talking about it. Really fun.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely something that I agree with you, Heidi. I kind of want to implement this into my regular internet consumption of actually feeling like I'm getting something out of this instead of endlessly scrolling through Instagram, which is a very bad habit of mine. I do that quite a bit. So.
And I agree. I found so much more I want to go back to and explore. And
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining us for today's episode. We will be back for episode 18 in 2 weeks. We're not quite sure what we're going to talk about yet, but we hope to see you then. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and don't forget to love each other. Bye, guys.
Bye.
bye.